Did you ever see a hangman tie a hang knot? Did you ever see a hangman tie a hang knot? I've seen it many a time, and he whines and he whines. After 13 times he's got a hang knot. Tell me, will that hang knot slip? No, it will not. Will that hang knot slip? No, it will not. Slip around your neck, but it won't slip back again. Hang knot, that hang knot.
Well, I am here in Okfuskee County, Oklahoma. I'm about 6 miles west of the little old oil boom town known as Okfuskee. And I am standing below what was once known as the old Schoolton Bridge. It's now Highway 56, and of course this isn't the same bridge, but a very tragic incident took place here back in 1911. This was the site of a double lynching of a woman named Laura Nelson and her 14-year-old son, LD, who were brought out here and lynched. Now, just to give you a little bit of a background on this, Oklahoma reached statehood a few years earlier in 1907. There weren't that many black people out here at that time, up until this time. So prior to statehood, the lynchings that did take place around these parts were usually of white men who were cattle rustlers and robbers and thieves, highwaymen. But when Oklahoma gained statehood in 1907, along with the Constitution, it embraced those Jim Crow laws that came after in the post-slavery years. And so most of the lynchings that took place after that were of black people, and there was some sort of a political statement behind them. Now, as the story goes, the father of the Nelson family, Austin Nelson, he stole a cow from a local farmer. And so the deputy sheriff out of Okfuskee, he and a couple of his men went to the Nelson home to serve an arrest warrant. And while they were there, Austin's wife, Laura, and their 14-year-old son, LD, armed themselves. And in the outcome, the deputy sheriff was shot and killed. And there's different claims as to exactly what happened. Most claims are that LD shot the deputy, but it was an accidental shooting after a struggle with a gun. Now, either the struggle was with Deputy Loney, or some say it was with his mother, Laura, who was trying to take the gun away from him. It was a Winchester rifle. But either way, Deputy Loney was shot and killed. Laura, some say, she claimed that she shot him just to take the rap and protect her son, but Deputy Loney and his men retreated outside, and he was shot in the leg, and that's where he bled to death. The newspaper report claimed that while he was bleeding to death, he had begged for water from Mrs. Nelson, and she responded by saying, quote, "Let the white blank die," is how it was printed in the paper. Of course, those are the accounts from the white posse who was there. But they were eventually captured and taken into Okfuskee, where they were housed in the jails there, and we'll head into town now and take a look at that. So here in Okfuskee, this is where the Nelson family was brought when they were arrested. Behind me here, this is what was once the county jail. And this is where the son, LD Nelson, was held. Now, the father, Austin Nelson, he fully cooperated the whole time, and he immediately pleaded guilty to larceny charges. And so they shipped him out about 60 miles away to McAllister, to the prison, and he served a 3-year prison sentence there. Now, while LD was housed here in the county jail, his mom, Laura, was held in a jail cell over at the courthouse. Now, the Nelson family was jailed here in town for about 3 weeks, up until the night before their scheduled court arraignment, when the justice system would run its course. And on that night, close to midnight, on May the 24th, a lynch mob posse busted in here, and according to the jail guard, a man named W.L. Payne, they, at gunpoint, tied him up, bound him, gagged him, cut the phone lines, took his keys, and grabbed LD and hauled him out of here. Now, behind me is the Okfuskee County Courthouse, and the top floor is the jails, and this is where Laura Nelson was housed while she was awaiting arraignment. So after the lynch mob kidnapped her son LD from the county jail around the corner where we were just at, they then marched down here and did the same with Laura, and grabbed them both and took them out to the old Schoolton Bridge, where we will now return.
Now the next scene is down by the river, a heartbroken mother and babe. In the harbor light glare, see them shiver outcast that no one will save. Once she was a true woman, somebody's darling and pride. God help her, she leaps, there's no one to weep. That's a picture from life's other side.
Now this lynching took place around midnight. The following morning, when the bodies were discovered hanging here, word quickly spread, and a large group of the town folks came out here. Now get this, they lined up across, this isn't the same bridge obviously, but they lined up across the bridge with the two corpses hanging below them and posed for photos. Okemah had one studio photographer there, a professional photographer, who came out and got in a boat out here and took this big group photo. I'll never understand that mentality, but I know that there were a lot of lynching photos taken, and the fact that people can stand next to the corpses that they just killed, and very proudly, and if you see these pictures, they obviously had no fear at that time that they were going to get picked out of the photo and prosecuted. But that was a thing, a common thing to do. They would take pictures of the corpses and take group photos. And while he was at it, he took a couple of close-up photos of the corpses, and those photos were made into souvenir postcards and sold in the local stores. It's been said that the photo of Laura Nelson's lynching is the only known photo that exists of a female lynching victim, although they must be referring to the only individual photo, because I know I have seen the Mary Surratt photos of the Lincoln assassination conspiracy. She was a part of that hanging. Now, believe it or not, making souvenir postcards out of photos from lynch victims was fairly common back in those days. And I think in this case, it served as a warning to other black people around here that if you come around here and you cause trouble, this will happen to you. As a matter of fact, there's a nearby town called Boley, and it always was and still is an all-black community. And it's been thought that that's the reason why they made these postcards, was to warn the people of Boley. Actually, the day after all this happened, the town of Okemah was in a general panic. They feared that they were going to receive retribution from the town folks of Boley. And so a lot of the women and children they camped them out in the fields for a couple of nights while the men stood guard along Main Street. Now maybe I can understand using these photos as a warning, but I'll never understand why as postcards they would make them for people to send to their friends and family. There's this social behavior from the past that maybe I'll never understand. Now there are some unconfirmed reports from witnesses on the scene. Some witnesses claim that Laura Nelson was raped by members of the posse. And another story that went around was that Laura Nelson also had with her a baby daughter named Carrie, who she had with her the entire time that she was in jail, and that when they were taken to the bridge, it's been said that she laid the baby down at the foot of the bridge before being marched out to the waiting noose. And after she was hanged, the lynch mob posse just all walked away and abandoned the baby. But someone did come by shortly after and rescue the baby and raised her as her own. And so if the baby story is true, then all I can say is thank God at least there was some humanity there. Now this whole tragic event more than likely would have been forgotten in history and time not long after the postcards went out of circulation if it weren't for one Okemah native son who actually wasn't born until the year after this tragedy took place. Okemah is the boyhood home of Woody Guthrie.
This land is your land, and this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters, this land was made for you and me.
Now Woody's father, Charlie Guthrie, he was a local politician here and the county clerk, and it is strongly believed that Woody's father, Charlie, was among the lynch mob that took the Nelson family out and lynched them. And it's also believed that he is among the spectators that appears in the group photo standing over the bridge. Now Woody, while he was growing up here, he saw those souvenir lynching postcards on display in the local stores here, and he also heard his father talk about this incident from time to time. So growing up and seeing these photos and hearing the stories, it obviously had a very profound effect upon him. Woody is known as the most prolific songwriter that America ever produced. They say he wrote over 3,000 songs, and some of the songs that he wrote was about this tragedy that he heard about and saw the photos of while growing up. Now, the fact that Woody was considered a communist, the town of Okemah shunned him for many, many years. The first time I came through here in the mid-'80s, I came here to research Woody, and I was expecting to see t-shirts and all kinds of memorabilia. Nothing. And when I would ask about Woody, the people around here at that time were saying, we don't talk about him around here. So he was a forgotten son for many years. However, in recent years, more liberal-minded people have taken to the council seats and so forth, and now they embrace Woody as their native son. They have a big festival here every year. They created this little park here in memory of him, put this little statue up, and during the fundraising drive, people could pay money to have their names put on these little bricks that you see around here and have the title of one of Woody's songs or other things saying. And I just discovered somebody donated one over here, if we'll take a look at that, and that tells our story. Now, besides this being the county jail, this building also has some other local historic reference. Woody Guthrie, now in his popular autobiography, Bound for Glory, in which most of the book was about his upbringing here in Okemah, he did write in there somewhere, I read, where he said he went around and he carved his initials and his name in every fence post and every signpost, everywhere that he could carve his name and his initials, he did. And of all that, there is still one relic of Woody that still exists here, and it's right at the same spot, ironically. Right over here, if you'll take a look in the corner here. As you can see, Woody dated his signature in 1927. He was 15 years old at that time, and it was just shortly before he moved out of this community and went to Pampa, Texas. Well, I'd like to close with some lyrics by Woody that he wrote from a song called High Balladry. This is one of the songs that he wrote about this particular incident. A nickel postcard I buy off your rack to show you what happens if you're black and fight back. A lady and two boys hanging by their necks from the rusty iron rigs of my Canadian bridge.
Tell me who makes the laws for that hang knot? Who makes the laws for that hang knot? Who says who will go to the calaboose, get the hangman's noose or the hang knot? I don't know who makes the law for that hang knot. I don't know who makes the law for that hang knot. But the bones of many a men are whistling in the wind just because they tied their laws with a hang knot.